Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal in the complex landscape of General Hospital. The story revolves around the machinations of Drew Kane, a man determined to tear apart Micheal and Willow's relationship to claim Willow for himself. Drew, feeling threatened by the growing bond between Micheal and Willow, becomes consumed by jealousy and a desire for control. His twisted emotions lead him to take drastic and destructive actions, namely framing Micheal for the shooting that nearly killed him. Drew's plan is simple. If he can convince everyone that Micheal was the shooter, not only would Micheal be plunged into legal turmoil, but Willow would also be forced to see Drew as a hero, rescuing her from the danger of a man who tried to murder him. This, in Drew's mind, would ultimately allow him to step in and take what he believes is rightfully his. However, as with any battle between good and evil, the truth cannot be hidden forever. Drew begins to carry out his plan with precision, but things quickly spiral out of control. Micheal, who was initially blindsided by the allegations, suddenly finds himself at the center of a criminal investigation. Drew boldly claims that Micheal is the one who shot him, making Micheal the primary suspect in his attack. The sudden and unexpected accusation throws Micheal into a web of confusion and fear, but little does Drew know that the situation is about to take a dramatic turn. In the midst of this turmoil, Porsche and Curtis, who are struggling with their own relationship issues, step forward as Michael's unexpected but crucial allies. Despite their personal challenges, Porsche and Curtis recognize that Micheal needs their help, and they are willing to put their differences aside to uncover the truth and clear Michael's name. Curtis, who has long had his own complicated feelings about Drew, understands that the only way to stop Drew's dangerous game is to expose his lies and manipulations. Porsche, however, is in a particularly difficult position. She's already facing the breakdown of her marriage with Curtis and is navigating the tension in her new relationship with Isaiah. Despite the emotional and personal chaos in her life, Porsche knows that she cannot simply stand by and watch as Micheal is falsely accused of a crime he didn't commit. Micheal has been a part of her family for so long, and her loyalty to him runs deep. But this situation is complicated, not just by Michael's plight but by the growing complications in Porsche's personal life. The more Porsche thinks about it, the more she realizes that if she doesn't act swiftly, she could lose everything. Isaiah, with whom she is trying to build a new life, could easily become a weapon in Drew's hands if he discovers the truth about Porsche's involvement with Curtis and their broken marriage. The potential for Isaiah to use their relationship as leverage against Curtis is a looming threat, one that could unravel everything Porsche has worked to protect. And yet, at the same time, Porsche finds herself at a crossroads. She is torn between protecting her own secrets and doing what is right for Micheal, for Curtis, and for herself. Curtis, feeling the weight of his actions and his own fractured relationship with Porsche, begins to investigate Drew's claims, looking for evidence that can clear Michael's name. The situation is further complicated by Curtis's desire to prove his innocence in the eyes of those around him. Curtis knows that in order to survive this, he must find the real answers to the shooting incident and prove he had no part in it. But as he dives deeper into the investigation, he also realizes that his own involvement in Drew's schemes could backfire and make things even worse for everyone involved. What Porsche and Curtis do not fully realize, however, is that the clock is ticking. Drew's grip on the situation is tightening, and every second spent searching for answers brings them closer to a confrontation with the dangerous truths that Drew has worked so hard to hide. For Micheal, there's no time to waste, and he must rely on the help of those he trusts the most, Porsche and Curtis. But as their efforts intensify, so too do the stakes. The risk of their own secrets being exposed becomes greater with every step they take to expose Drew's lies. As the tension escalates, Porsche makes a crucial decision. She cannot allow Isaiah's potential leverage to destroy everything, but neither can she abandon Micheal in his time of need. She takes the risk of aligning herself with Curtis, despite the personal cost. Together, they work tirelessly to gather the evidence needed to disprove Drew's accusations. Porsche and Curtis' partnership, though fraught with emotional baggage, becomes the key to unraveling Drew's plot. The two of them, despite their troubled relationship, prove that loyalty and a sense of justice can overcome even the deepest personal wounds. When the truth finally comes to light, Drew's web of lies begins to unravel. The combined efforts of Micheal, Porsche, and Curtis expose Drew's treachery, revealing him as the manipulative villain he truly is. With his false accusations against Micheal laid bare, Drew is forced to face the consequences of his actions. He is arrested, his deceit exposed for all to see, and the damage he has caused to so many lives is finally brought to an end. In the aftermath of Drew's downfall, the emotional consequences are far-reaching. For Porsche and Curtis, their reconciliation feels possible, but only after they face the full extent of their respective betrayals. For Micheal, the threat of false imprisonment is lifted, but the scars left by Drew's attack and the betrayal of someone he once considered a friend may take longer to heal. And for Isaiah, the truth about Porsche's complicated past with Curtis cannot remain hidden forever, leading to further complications in their budding relationship. But amidst the pain and betrayal, there is hope. The struggle between Drew's lies and the truth has united Porsche, Curtis, and Micheal in a way that no one could have anticipated. Though the road ahead is uncertain, they have proven that loyalty, justice, and family can overcome even the darkest of plots. And in the end, the truth always finds a way to shine through. For Porsche, protecting Curtis and Micheal means she must walk a delicate line, keeping her relationship with Isaiah hidden, all while avoiding any suspicion from him. The stakes are high, and the risks even higher. Porsche's heart is torn between loyalty to her family, particularly Curtis and Micheal, and her emotional ties to Isaiah. Her growing relationship with Isaiah, still new and untested, must not be jeopardized by her involvement in this complex web of deception. The very act of protecting Curtis and Micheal could unravel everything she has worked to build with Isaiah, especially if he ever discovers the truth about her ongoing connection to her estranged husband. Porsche, ever the strategist, realizes she must protect her family while maintaining the facade of normalcy with Isaiah. The key to all of this lies in the critical need to secure an alibi for Curtis, to clear his name and prove his innocence in the shooting incident. But achieving this is far from easy. As she works tirelessly to uncover evidence to exonerate Curtis, Porsche is constantly mindful of the consequences of being discovered. Every step she takes could bring her closer to exposing the affair between her and Curtis, something she is not ready for Isaiah to find out. The tension builds with every passing moment, and Porsche's internal struggle grows more intense. Her love for Curtis, complicated by their separation and her new relationship with Isaiah, clouds her judgment. On the one hand, she wants to protect Curtis and prove his innocence, but on the other, she can't allow her personal life to implode in front of Isaiah. If he ever found out, it would destroy both their relationship and the trust she has spent so much time building. The secrets Porsche is keeping from Isaiah are becoming more difficult to manage, and the stakes keep escalating. Porsche's strategy becomes a balancing act. She knows that Curtis needs her help more than ever, especially as the situation with Drew grows increasingly dangerous. But in trying to protect Curtis, Porsche must also work to keep Isaiah from discovering the truth. She lies about her whereabouts, keeping her distance from both Curtis and the investigation when possible, and makes sure her time with Isaiah appears to be uninterrupted by the chaos around them. She convinces herself that as long as she keeps the secret safe, everything else will fall into place. Meanwhile, Curtis, deeply caught in the emotional turmoil of his past with Porsche and his present with the ongoing investigation, finds himself once again at a crossroads. He is facing a difficult choice. He needs solid proof to clear his name and put an end to the accusations Drew has leveled against him. The longer he goes without this evidence, the more his chances of being vindicated fade. But Curtis is no stranger to internal conflict. He has long avoided confronting the truth about his marriage and his separation from Porsche, and now he must reckon with the painful reality of his own mistakes. His unresolved feelings for Porsche complicate things further. The idea of working with her to clear his name is tempting, but it also risks dredging up everything they have tried to avoid. Can they truly work together without falling back into old patterns? Curtis's feelings of guilt over their fractured marriage push him to keep certain things from Porsche, even as they collaborate to find evidence to disprove Drew's allegations. He tries to convince himself that their personal issues should not affect their efforts to uncover the truth, but deep down, Curtis knows that their history is an obstacle they cannot ignore. The longer they spend working together, the more they risk facing uncomfortable truths about their past, truths that neither of them is ready to confront. Yet, Despite all of these personal struggles, Curtis and Porsche realize that they cannot afford to let their emotions get in the way of the larger picture. The danger posed by Drew is too great to ignore. Drew, with his manipulative ways and his ruthless pursuit of Willow, is more than just a personal enemy. He has become a threat to everyone around him. Curtis, although under pressure from both Porsche and Isaiah, knows that Drew is the real villain here. Drew's lies and deceit have already hurt so many people, and Curtis understands that the only way to stop him is to work together with Micheal. The decision to join forces with Micheal comes with its own set of risks. Curtis knows that by working with Micheal, he might further strain his relationship with Porsche, especially given their already tense history. But the danger posed by Drew is too urgent to put off. Curtis decides that stopping Drew is more important than anything else. Together with Micheal, they begin to pool their resources and strategize on how to uncover the truth. Curtis's expertise in investigation and Michael's determination become a powerful combination. As they dig deeper into Drew's past and his motives, the two men uncover more than they initially bargained for. Curtis and Michael's partnership, though born out of necessity, quickly becomes one built on mutual respect and a shared understanding of the stakes. Drew is not just a threat to Micheal and Curtis, he is a threat to everything they hold dear. As the investigation intensifies, it becomes clear that Drew's twisted plot will eventually come to light. Curtis, with Porsche's help in securing an alibi, and Micheal, with his relentless determination, are able to piece together the evidence that will finally exonerate them both and expose Drew for the manipulator he truly is. As the final confrontation with Drew looms, Curtis and Porsche must confront not only their personal demons but the reality that they cannot avoid facing the truth of their past. The impact of this investigation on their relationship is inevitable. Curtis has long struggled with his unresolved feelings for Porsche, and now, as they join forces once again to bring Drew down, they must confront the reality of whether they can move past their pain and rebuild what they once had. In the end, Drew is exposed for his lies and manipulation, his plans shattered by the combined efforts of Curtis, Micheal, and Porsche. Drew is arrested, and his hold on Willow is broken, but the consequences of his actions ripple through the lives of everyone involved. For Curtis and Porsche, the work is not done. Their relationship is still in a fragile state, and while they have proven they can work together to fight for what is right, their journey of reconciliation and healing is just beginning. Curtis and Porsche must now navigate the complexities of rebuilding their trust in each other while continuing to protect the family they both cherish. In the climactic unfolding of events, the tireless efforts of Porsche and Curtis not only allowed Micheal to prove his innocence but also gave them the opportunity to strike back at Drew with a forceful counterattack. What began as a desperate attempt to clear Michael's name evolved into a meticulous operation to expose Drew for the manipulative liar he was. Curtis, Porsche, and Micheal, working in close cooperation, dug deeper into Drew's past, uncovering the hidden truths and inconsistencies in his story. Drew's cunning, selfish nature had ensured he was a master manipulator, but the truth likely rising to the surface could no longer be hidden. As they pieced together the evidence, it became clear that Drew had been orchestrating a series of lies to frame Micheal for the crime he himself had committed. The investigation led to a devastating revelation. Drew's entire story had been fabricated, and with each new discovery, it became impossible for him to cover his tracks. Curtis, who had long been skeptical of Drew's motives, finally had the confirmation he needed that Drew was indeed the villain in this tangled mess. Michael's innocence was no longer in question. It was Drew who had orchestrated the chaos and tried to destroy Michael's life for his own gain. The truth came crashing down when the damning evidence was presented, and Drew was caught in the act of deceiving everyone around him. In that moment, Drew's facade as a victim crumbled, revealing the cruel, calculating man he truly was. He was immediately arrested, his lies exposed for the entire town to see. The people who had once been swayed by his story now saw him for what he truly was, a manipulator, driven by jealousy and an insatiable thirst for control. Drew's fate was sealed as he was cuffed and led away, unable to escape the consequences of his actions. Despite Drew's fall from grace, the aftermath of his actions left a significant impact on everyone involved. The repercussions of his deceit reached far beyond Michael's innocence, affecting the lives of Curtis, Porsche, and the people closest to them. For Curtis and Porsche, the victory over Drew did not immediately bring the peace they had hoped for. The damage caused by their troubled marriage and the complicated truth about Porsche's relationship with Isaiah became an unavoidable obstacle. Curtis, still reeling from the betrayal, found himself torn between his feelings of anger and hurt and his desire to rebuild his life with Porsche. He had fought so hard to clear his name, and now he was faced with the painful truth of Porsche's affair. Porsche, who had sacrificed so much to protect her family, now had to confront the consequences of her actions. Her relationship with Isaiah, which had been a source of comfort during her separation from Curtis, became a looming issue. While she had justified her actions to herself, knowing that her love for Curtis was unbroken, she could not deny that her choices had deeply hurt her family. The guilt weighed heavily on her heart, especially as she saw Curtis struggling with his own pain. But Porsche had never been one to back down from a challenge, and she knew that the road to healing would require not only confronting the truth, but also making amends with Curtis. Although Curtis had every right to feel betrayed, he ultimately saw the bigger picture. The devastation caused by Drew's lies had shown him just how fragile their family had become, but it also reminded him of the strength they could draw from one another. Curtis and Porsche had weathered many storms together, and while their relationship was at a crossroads, they were both determined to rebuild it not just for their sake, but for the sake of their family. Porsche's unwavering loyalty to Curtis, her decision to help him despite their personal struggles, had shown him that, in the end, family was everything. Despite the emotional cost, Curtis was willing to forgive Porsche, recognizing that they both had their flaws but that love and trust could be rebuilt if they chose to work together. The evidence Porsche had provided to clear Curtis's name had also helped expose Drew's manipulations, lifting the weight off Micheal's shoulders. Micheal, who had been wrongly accused and torn apart by Drew's lies, was finally vindicated. His name was cleared, and the truth had come to light. But Micheal's victory was not just about proving his innocence, it was about seeing the loyalty and strength of the people who had stood by him. The unwavering support from Curtis and Porsche showed Micheal that he wasn't alone in this fight. Despite the odds, they had come together, putting their differences aside for the greater good. It was a powerful reminder of the bonds that tied them all together. The arrest of Drew marked the end of his reign of terror, but the effects of his actions were far-reaching. With Drew behind bars, able to cause further harm, the people he had targeted desperately Micheal could begin to heal. For Curtis and Porsche, though, the healing process was far from over. Their marriage, strained by deception and betrayal, required time and effort to rebuild, but the victory over Drew marked the first step toward mending their fractured bond. For Micheal, the battle had been long and painful, but the outcome had proven that justice would always prevail. It wasn't just his innocence that was restored, it was the validation of his character and his worth, something Drew had tried to strip away. Micheal emerged from this ordeal stronger than ever, with the unwavering support of his family and friends. Drew had underestimated the power of loyalty and truth, and in the end, it was those qualities that ensured his downfall. As Drew was led away, defeated and broken, the true victory belonged to those who had been loyal to one another, who had fought for what was right despite the personal cost. Curtis, Porsche, and Micheal had triumphed over deception and betrayal, but more importantly, they had found their way back to each other. The struggle against Drew had been a battle of lies and manipulation, but in the end, love, truth, and justice had won. Drew's arrest marked the end of his attempts to tear them apart, but for Curtis and Porsche, the road to rebuilding their family was just beginning. It was a new chapter for all of them, one forged in the fires of betrayal but strengthened by their shared commitment to one another. Life after the chaotic events that unfolded was far from easy for the Ashford family, particularly for Curtis and Porsche. The truth behind their fractured marriage, long buried beneath layers of secrecy and pain, had been exposed. The ramifications of these revelations were profound, affecting not only their relationship but also their sense of identity and their place within their community. Porsche's affair with Isaiah had shaken Curtis to his core, and though they had begun to rebuild their trust, the wounds left by that betrayal were still fresh. For Curtis, the hurt was not only about the affair itself but about the realization that his family had been kept in the dark. That the woman he loved had been keeping secrets that threatened to tear apart the foundation they had spent years building. The emotional toll of this revelation was immense, and both Curtis and Porsche were forced to confront the weight of their actions and the consequences they had on their lives and their family. However, amidst this turmoil, one thing remained clear: their commitment to their family, their friends, and the pursuit of justice had helped them weather the storm. Despite the emotional upheaval, they had found solace in the support they provided each other, and the decision to fight for what was right had ultimately brought them closer. Their joint effort to take down Drew and clear Micheal's name had been a turning point, a reminder that they could still stand side by side in the face of adversity. This collaboration was not just about seeking redemption for Micheal, but also about proving to themselves and to their loved ones that they could overcome the greatest of challenges. For Porsche, the journey was a personal one. The decision to fight for Curtis, despite the hurt and betrayal she had caused him, was not easy. She had to wrestle with her own guilt and her desire to make things right. In the midst of trying to help Curtis, she was also trying to reconcile her own actions and decisions. The affair with Isaiah, while never intended to destroy her marriage, had nonetheless done so, and Porsche now had to deal with the consequences of that. She couldn't undo the past, but she could fight for a future where her family could heal and rebuild. Porsche's commitment to Curtis, to the family they had started together, was tested, but she ultimately realized that without honesty, trust, and loyalty, there could be no foundation for the life they hoped to rebuild. Curtis, on the other hand, was forced to confront his own vulnerabilities. He had built his life on the belief that loyalty and family came first, but the revelation of Porsche's affair shattered that belief. He struggled with feelings of betrayal and insecurity, yet he could not ignore the love he still had for Porsche. Curtis's journey was about more than just reconciling with Porsche. It was about rediscovering his own sense of worth and strength. He realized that his commitment to his family and his sense of justice were intertwined. He couldn't let his personal hurt cloud his judgment when it came to protecting those he cared about. The fight against Drew, and the realization that they had cleared Micheal's name, reaffirmed Curtis's belief in doing what was right, no matter the cost. He knew the road to healing would be long, but he was determined to face it with Porsche by his side, even if it meant accepting the uncomfortable truths about their past. Although the emotional scars from Drew's manipulation and the betrayal that had torn apart Curtis and Porsche's marriage may never fully heal, the most important lesson they learned was that the bonds they shared could withstand even the darkest of moments. The truth, no matter how painful, was a powerful force in their lives. And while they might never return to the way things were before, they had proven that honesty, loyalty, and the willingness to fight for each other were worth more than any past mistakes. The story of Curtis, Porsche, and Micheal wasn't just about the defeat of a villain or the triumph of justice. It was about the complex and sometimes painful reality of facing one's own flaws and finding redemption. It was about the sacrifices they made, not just for their own well-being, but for the ones they loved. It was a reminder that relationships are rarely simple, and often, the road to healing and understanding is fraught with challenges. But, as they stood together, they also showed that no matter how much time and effort it takes, the pursuit of truth and justice will always guide them to the light. No matter how dark the journey may seem, in the end, this story served as a powerful reminder that the most difficult relationships, ones that test our resolve and challenge our beliefs, are also the ones that can lead to the greatest growth. Curtis and Porsche had not only faced their darkest moments but had come out stronger on the other side. They had learned that true strength comes from the willingness to confront the truth, to face the hard choices, and to rebuild from the ground up, no matter how complicated the path may be. Through it all, they had rediscovered their shared commitment to each other, proving that nothing was more important than protecting those they loved and standing by each other in the face of life's most formidable challenges.